Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. Today we're going to look at a deck that's been doing pretty well at City Championships, and I'm also going to show off the tournament feature on Pokemon TCG Online. They have been running this weekend and the past weekend as well, so if you want to play in some tournaments, go on Pokemon TCG Online, and there's some fun stuff. Now, the deck we're going to show off here is a Seismitoad Slurpuff deck. And since this video is going to be very long, since it's a tournament, I'm just going to kind of breeze right through it. The idea behind this deck is to take full advantage of how broken Seismitoad EX is. Quaking Punch does 30 damage, which isn't a lot, but we take away our opponent's item cards, and that is devastating. We've seen item card denial be a huge proponent of just popular strategies over the past few years with Trevenant, with Excelgor, even Zebstrika sometimes. Seismitoad EX is a big EX that can do that for just 2 energy, which means a double colorless can power him up, right? So Quaking Punch only does 30, but when we have Muscle Band, that turns into 50. When we have Hypnotoxic Laser, the poison makes it 60 damage. And when we have Verbank City Gym, well, that makes it 80 damage. And then if they stay poisoned, it'll be 110 damage coming back to your turn, 140 going back to them. And basically what it boils down to is Quaking Punch plus Laser and Verbank is pretty good. So not only do you get offensive firepower with these item cards and Quaking Punch, but you also take away your opponent's item cards, which is incredible. Now the backup for Seismitoad in this deck is actually just going to be Slurpuff. Now, this is not a card that we see played very often at all. In fact, when I saw it, I thought it would be a pretty mediocre card. Nothing great, probably never played. But we're going to run a 4-4 line of Slurpuff. And that's going to be really weird, but you'll see why. So, Tasting allows you to draw an extra card every turn. And if it's your active Pokemon, you can draw 2 cards. So, pretty good. If it's active, otherwise, it just draws you a card. But once you get 3 and 4 of these in play, boy, you start to draw tons of cards. And that's going to be the idea here. Draw through your deck as quickly as possible so you can play annoying cards like Hypnotoxic Laser, like Crushing Hammer to discard your opponent's energy, like Enhanced Hammer, and we don't always have to use a draw supporter when we have Slurpuff. So that allows us to play even more annoying supporter cards like Team Flare Grunt, like Xerosic, and Lysander if need be. And also it allows us to play a Lysander's trump card, shuffle in everything, get it all back, and start drawing through our deck once again. So it just allows us some flexibility on what supporter cards we can play on our turn. There's no limit to what supporter cards you could use. If you want to play in AZ, you can do that. There's all sorts of different supporters. Pokemon Center Lady, if you want to do that, you can throw that in here. I'm just going with the Xerosic and the Flare Grunt to go with the energy denial strategy here. And speaking of that, we also have a couple Head Ringer, can slow down our opponent pretty badly. We have 2 Float Stone just to give our Slurpuff some free retreat. If a Seismitoad does get knocked out, we can promote it in Tasting and then retreat. And also a Switch just in case. Computer Search, going to be the A-Spec card. Allows us to search for anything. We really need that for a quick Quaking Punch. Computer Search for the double colorless. 3 VS Seeker gives us flexibility on our supporters. 3 Ultra Ball to search out our Pokemon. Our energy going to be pretty low. 4 double colorless. And 3 Water Energy. Keep in mind, we're just going to be using Quaking Punch 99% of the time. And then if we need energy back, you can always trump card everything back in. So there you have it, a Seismitoad Slurpuff deck. Not a complicated deck. Very powerful, though, thanks to these item cards. Laser and Hammer. And Hammer. And, every other annoying card in the format, pretty much. So, alright, let's jump right into it. Got a tournament on Pokemon TCG Online. If you don't know how this works, it's 8 people, single elimination, so 3 rounds. If you win, you go on. If you win all 3 rounds, you're the champion, and then you win some prizes. So, pretty fun. I love playing in these. Definitely check it out if you haven't yet. You do need some tournament tickets if you've earned them, over the course of playing over the past year or so. And you can use those to enter. If not, you can actually buy them through the client finally. You can buy things. And, that's pretty much it. Buy some tournament tickets if you need to. So I'm going to start off here with a Swirlix. Not the Pokemon we want to start with. Of course, we do want to start with Seismitoad. And no draw supporter. Boo. but I am going to laser the Patrat. So, not really sure what I'm going up against. One of the downsides of tournaments is you won't always face competitive decks. You might just face someone who started playing on Pokemon TCG Online and they don't have a lot of cards, and well, that's just the way it is. Sometimes you run into a Patrat Hard Charm deck. But we'll see. I have learned over the course of my career, do not underestimate things. Do not underestimate decks ever. It is a bad idea. Alright, so we see a Pokemon fan club for an Inkay and a Darkrai EX. So it looks like those are going to go down. Darkrai is certainly a Pokemon that could be problematic at some point. So got to be careful with that thing. And I would hope that I can get a Quaking Punch going next turn, shut off some item cards, and then from there we should be able to roll things, start rolling through, and just punch away. So I can evolve to Slurpuff here, and tasting, I'll be able to draw 2 cards. And I do have a Crushing Hammer, so we'll go ahead and drop that and get heads. So pretty fortunate there. Slow down that Darkrai as much as we can. Yeah, didn't get what I wanted. I do have an Ultra Ball. We can go ahead and play it. And I'm going to discard 2 supporters since I have VS Seeker. And those weren't really supporters I needed. I also have a VS Seeker if I really need to play another supporter. And you know what? I'm just going to keep Slurpuff active. If my opponent happens to play a Hypnotoxic Laser or something, I don't want Seismitoad to be poisoned. So we'll just keep Slurpuff active and pass. Plus, I don't really expect Slurpuff to be knocked out. So, not a great turn 1 or turn 2 for me, unfortunately. I do have a Slurpuff going, but I have not been able to Quaking Punch, and that's really the whole goal of the deck here. To Quaking Punch immediately, and then never stop using Quaking Punch, just constantly shut off your opponent's item cards. But, yeah, this is a weird game. We see a Maintenance, which we never, ever see. Shuffle 2 cards in and then draw a card. It was in base set. It wasn't played then. It probably shouldn't be played now. But, hey, what do I know? I'm going to go with some Tasting. And, alright, there we finally get a double colorless energy. Can drop that down on the Toad. Drop the Float Stone on the Slurpuff. I guess might as well give it free retreat forever. Have something to promote. And Tasting for an extra card if we need to. And then I have a VS Seeker here. I could go for an N, but my opponent really hasn't played anything. So I'm going to grab the Skyla instead. And we'll just grab Professor Juniper and get a nice supporter for next turn. It's annoying that Patrat would have been just knocked out anyway, but let's go with the Quaking Punch and snag a quick knockout. And shut off item cards, since that's the entire strategy of my deck. So the goal here is just going to be Quaking Punch, Quaking Punch, Quaking Punch. Play annoying item cards like Crushing Hammer. I believe I've gotten 2 heads already. Slowing down the Darkrai. If I haven't gotten those 2 heads, Darkrai could have been using Night Spear at this point, which could have posed a bit of a problem. So, good thing that I at least got a heads on Crushing Hammer. And alright, here we go. I have double colorless that I might have to Juniper it away, or I could play it on the active. Prepare for something like a Zero Sick or Team Flare Grunt that could be annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's Tasting. Draw an extra card here. And I'm going to put the Head Ringer on that Darkrai, which seems pretty good. And a third Crushing Hammer heads. We're getting pretty lucky. I won't deny that. 3 for 3 on Crushing Hammer, but that's how annoying this deck can be if you just get heads on those kinds of cards. You can slow down your opponent so much. And it is just so annoying. So I'm going to Ultra Ball. I have another Slurpuff in my hand. Discard a double colorless. I always figure we can trump card stuff back in if I need to. Let's see, kind of blurring through the deck there. There's a Swirlix. Gonna put it down and Quaking Punch. 50 damage, knockout, poor Skitty. And yeah, speak of the devil, there is the trump card, which will allow me to shuffle in anything that I have used up to this point, which means I could get all those Crushing Hammers back and start discarding my opponent's energy again. Boy, he's going to end up hating me by the end of this game. So we see Porygon coming active, a Baneri on the bench. Yeah, this is just weird, folks. I don't really know how to explain this. So I'm going to go with the Hypnotoxic Laser. We'll play that before the trump card, and then just trump card all my stuff back in. We got 3 hammers going back. We got 2 lasers going back, couple Lysander. My opponent gets some stuff, but not stuff that's going to be particularly good. I could have switched before the trump card and just got an extra card with tasting and then shuffled the switch back in. Probably should have done that, but oh well. Let's just go with the Quaking Punch. That's fine too. And take the knockout on this Porygon right here. And, once we started Quaking Punching, things started going well, so. Alright, just 3 more prizes to go. Baneri coming out. Second energy going on to Darkrai there. And we got another Seismitoad. Guess we can drop him down. Darkrai cannot Night Spear me without a double colorless. Let's go for the tasting. Hoping to find like a crushing hammer or something here. Another tasting. Nope, not going to get anything there really. And I probably should have played the switch before using tasting if I was going to Juniper the hand anyway, but oh well. The extra card probably not going to matter too much at this point. I got a Burbank City Gym. We could put that out there. I can't knock out this Baneri. I don't have a Hypnotoxic Laser. How embarrassing is that? I can't knock out Baneri. But it just shows you how important Hypnotoxic Laser is to this deck. Still a little embarrassing. But I'm going to go ahead and Ultra Ball for another Swirlix and Quaking Punch for 50 damage. And, we're still pretty much rolling here. Cannot complain about this position at all. Yeah, it's looking good. One of the downsides of this deck is that it is going to be pretty boring most of the time. You're going to be using 1 attack pretty much constantly, and that can be extremely boring. But, hey, it's an effective strategy, so I figured I would try to show it off here, even against a bunch of Pokemon we don't see played very often. So I'm going to go ahead after the Juniper, use Tasting a couple times. Got 3 Slurpuff now, so we're drawing 3 extra cards. Crushing Hammer, and why not? Let's get another Heads to make sure that Darkrai will never, ever attack. And Quaking Punch for the knockout. And at this point, we've pretty much locked up the game, unless my opponent plays an N here. I have a Lysander to bring out the Darkrai, along with Hypnotoxic Laser, Burbank City Gym, and Muscle Band, and a Water Energy, so I can actually use Grenade Hammer and finish off this game right here. So let's attach the water to the active, bring out the Darkrai, Laser, and for once we're not going to Quaking Punch, we're going to Grenade Hammer, 150, and then the Poison and Verbank will finish off Darkrai. Grenade Hammer, a great finishing attack to win games. You only use it when you really, really need to, but hey, when you need to, it wins you a game. That's cool with me. So there we go. Round number 1 of the tournament. Got a tournament ticket from the mystery wheel, the bonus wheel. That's good. My opponent actually did not attack at all, so that's interesting. And I guess that's round 1. Seismitoad, MVP. We're going to jump right into game number 2. Of course, if we win this one, we'll go on to the finals and hopefully win the tournament. And once again, we're going to start with Swirlix. All right. It's not a Seismitoad. I really need Seismitoad. But whatever. We'll live with it, right? Alright. So, I start with Swirlix against a Muna, and oh no, Virizion EX. The worst thing this deck can run into is Virizion EX. It just kills Seismitoad. Without Garbodor to shut off that Verdant Wind, really, there's not a whole lot you can do against it, but just Crushing Hammer and pray. And that's about it. Or get a Head Ringer on, but no, he puts the Muscle Band down as well. Ugh. So that's going to be super duper annoying. And long distance Hypnosis gets head, so I'm going to go to sleep. But the reason Virizion destroys Seismitoad, Verdant Wind stops poison, water resistance, Seismitoad's weak to grass. It is basically the ultimate counter to a Seismitoad EX. We're going to have to get really lucky to beat this thing, folks. There's a Crushing Hammer. There's a good start. Heads on that. So we're going to go ahead and Ultra Ball. I'm going to have to discard at least one important card here. I'm going to discard the Hypnotoxic Laser. Need to start getting the Quaking Punch going, shut off some items, and see if we can do anything from there. So pretty much a perfect start for me. I can't complain about that. But this is going to be ugly if my opponent ever powers up a Virizion EX and gets to use Emerald Slash. So there we go. Quaking Punch just for 30 damage, but that's going to be a 2-hit knockout on Muna. That's fine. We just needed to stop the item cards from coming down. Stop anything like Professor's Letter or even a Switch or, who knows, Enhanced Hammer. All sorts of item cards that would be pretty good in this spot. Can't be played. Limits our opponent's options greatly. So I do have a Zero-Sick in hand. That could be pretty big. You know, if I had a Zero-Sick and a Head Ringer, that would be an awesome combo here. Discard Muscle Band, Head Ringer. But nope, looks like that's not going to happen. I would love to just take the turn to Zero-Sick, discard the Muscle Band, but then my opponent gets items back. So it's not going to be worth it. So I guess we can just Quaking Punch. I'm going to Juniper, hope to hit another Crushing Hammer, and if we can manage to do that, then it'll be huge, right? I'll be able to, you know, dodge another Emerald Slash and keep the train rolling, but it's not good. I don't see any Crushing Hammers. Still don't see any Crushing Hammers. So I'm going to go ahead with a Ultra Ball. Hopefully my second tasting can pull that off. Going to discard the Float Stone. The discards here are actually pretty interesting. I'm going to Ultra Ball, probably just discard the Trump card, since I can always VS Seeker for that. And I guess a Muscle Band. Sure, why not? We'll get down another Slurpuff. Come on, Crushing Hammer! No, not going to happen. And then I'll retreat, and we'll get the water in the discard. I wouldn't mind Trump carding that back in, and then we'll put the Float Stone on anyway. I don't have to worry about tools getting discarded because Quaking Punch shuts down the Startling Megaphone, and if my opponent plays a Zero-Sick and discards a Float Stone off a Slurpuff, they are insane. So, pretty safe there. But oh, not safe at all. Emerald Slash for 140 damage. This lone Virizion EX poses such a threat, it is ridiculous. I cannot deal with this thing. It's a monster. I have the option here to just VS Seeker for Juniper, or I can Tasting and try to draw like a Head Ringer or a Flare Grunt. But Tasting twice leads to 2 lasers, which now I'll have to discard 2 Hypnotoxic lasers. Alright, well I definitely need to Juniper here so I can try to find Crushing Hammer. I have to find Crushing Hammer to slow down this Virizion EX. And okay, here we go. We did get a Crushing Hammer and heads! Alright, so we're going to discard the Grass Energy off of that Virizion EX. Whew. Maybe we can slow this down a little bit. My opponent actually didn't have a benched Pokemon to Emerald Slash 2, so that's actually pretty important as well. There's nothing on the bench to get charged up. So the lack of item cards certainly hurting my opponent. You know, my opponent could have like a VS Seeker, a Professor's Letter, all sorts of things that could be problematic here. Oh, I got a Team Flare Grunt. Oh, and a Hypnotoxic Laser off of the second card from Tasting. So huge turn of events there. A Team Flare Grunt discards the Lightning Energy, and then a Hypnotoxic Laser, a Burbank City Gym, and a Quaking Punch. So my opponent could be in some major trouble here if he does not find a way out of this. A Grass Energy is a simple way to get out of it, and there it is. But that was a huge turn there. And again, the whole goal here is just to try to slow down my opponent. Go for a Tasting and another Tasting. And why not? We're hungry today. We're going to go for a third Tasting. And Skyla here. So I can Skyla for, VS Seeker would be decent to grab the Trump card back, or Crushing Hammer. Ooh, if we hit a heads on the Crushing Hammer, we could slow him down again. So those are my two choices here. I think since Virizion EX is such a problem, I could take a switch as well, I suppose. No, I think since Virizion is such a problem, we should probably just go for the Crushing Hammer. Let's do it. Try to discard that Grass Energy. Try to get lucky again. Here we go. Crushing Hammer. Oh, Tails. Alright, well, I guess I can't be too upset. Gotten pretty fortunate with my hammers so far. And now we'll have to see, does my opponent have another energy? There's a second Virizion EX, so another one we're going to have to deal with. This is the most annoying card in the world to deal with. Actually, it's Seismitoad, but when you're using Seismitoad, Virizion is the one thing you don't want to see. And, oh, my opponent actually retreats into this new Virizion EX. Oh, my goodness. This is crazy. Off the third tasting, we get the VS Seeker, and it's time for the trump card. Gonna shuffle everything back in. So all my lasers, all my hammers, everything I've burned to this point goes back in. My opponent does get 4 energy back, and that's actually pretty good for my opponent, but you know what? I am feeling great right now. My opponent has no energy in play. There's a head ringer on the active. Doesn't get any item cards. I mean, give me a break. This is about the best situation I could be in. I'm going to go with the switch here. Get the Slurpuff active. And I guess I'm just going to Juniper the hand away, since nothing too important there. And I'm going to be using a bunch of tasting anyway. So I'm going to go with the big old Juniper, the tasting, and I guess I can promote the Seismitoad that's not damaged at this point. Try to deny my opponent prizes a little bit here. And Hypnotoxic Laser, there's no grass energy on the active. We're going to discard an Enhanced Hammer and another Ultra Ball with that Ultra Ball, and there are no Pokemon left in the deck. I do have a Water Energy I could put down at this point. So we're going to put that on the bench. Seismitoad, prepare for a Grenade Hammer, perhaps. And there's the Quaking Punch. Gonna poison. The sleep doesn't particularly matter here. The poison certainly does. And, oh man. This is how Seismitoad can beat Virizion EX. It's kind of silly, but it can happen sometimes just with hammers and head ringers and lasers and, you know, just your opponent drawing a poor hand. This can happen. And we have the Zero Sick Head Ringer combo. I'm going to go ahead and just do it. Why not? Zero Sick Head Ringer. It's probably irrelevant at this point, but whatever. I did it. It's cool. And there's Quaking Punch for the knockout after poison. And now my opponent just has Virizion EX. I'm saying sorry about the bad hand. This has been brutal for my opponent. And just a pass of the turn. And once again, we're going to finish off the game with a big old Grenade Hammer. 130 damage. I do have to damage to my own bench Pokemon, but that is pretty relevant because I win. So there we go. Victory once again for Seismitoad, Slurpuff, Quaking Punch, our way to victory. On the back of those silly item cards, the Hypnotoxic Lasers, the Crushing Hammers, and Trump card to bring it all back. Alright, so that's round 2. If we can win one more game, we will win the tournament, win that beautiful gold trophy. So here we go, game number 3, and we're going to be going first. Come on, Seismitoad. Oh my, are you kidding me? A third Swirlix start in a row. But, you know, I am fortunate. Every time I've opened Swirlix, I also have opened Floatstone. So that's, I guess it could be worse. Alright, but we see, okay, a Wobbuffet and a Phanpy. And my opening hand is horrendous. So, okay. So here, let's see. Wobbuffet is particularly annoying. Bide Barricade shuts off any non-psychic Pokemon abilities. So I won't actually be able to use Tasting next turn. So I'm actually going to bring out Phanpy with this Lysander. I don't have a better supporter anyway. So let's just bring up Phanpy and pass. A Donphan deck normally doesn't have a way to deal 60 turn 1. So I feel safe not Ultra Balling for anything. And okay, my opponent does play an N. But you know, I was okay with my hand. Gonna be honest. I could have done some stuff. I don't know. Next turn, if I got a Tasting off, And, oh, my opponent does manage to get an escape rope. I was really hoping a Quaking Punch knock out that Phanpy right there. That would have been an enormous play right there. Got a heads on Crushing Hammer. Seems to be a pretty big theme when I'm playing this deck. I have a Hypnotoxic Laser. Just going to Juniper the hand away. I could... no, there's no point to trying to dig for DCE there. I could end up just discarding better things, so no point in playing a Juniper there if I don't need to. And what a brutal hand. Pass. Okay. That didn't go as planned. Now, again, my opponent has Wobbuffet active, so I could not use Tasting. I kind of thought I could. I don't know why I thought I could, but you cannot use Tasting when Abide Barricade is shutting it off, so that's really annoying. What else is annoying? My opponent managed to get two Robo Substitute down on the board. That's really annoying. One of the great things when you face Donphan with a Seismitoad deck is you can stop them from playing those Robo Substitute, those things that just don't give up prizes. But my opponent managed to get two of them down. Now here, my opponent missed an energy drop. That's huge. And I could just put down the Verbank City Gym, Quaking Punch, and then if my opponent doesn't get a counter Stadium, that Wobbuffet's going to get knocked out coming back into my turn unless my opponent wants to burn a double colorless to retreat, and it doesn't seem like a very good idea. So this could be a big turn here. If my opponent doesn't get a counter Stadium, Wobbuffet will get knocked out by Poison coming back into my turn, and boom, just like that, we get the nice prize coming back into my turn. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so now a Robo Substitute coming active. Going to go with some Crushing Hammers. Got a Tails and a Heads, so going to discard the Fighting Energy on the Donphan. I have a third Seismitoad. Certainly going to need 3 of them over the course of the game. I might not need a 4th, though, so I'm just going to Juniper that other one away. Going to Tasting for an extra card. Get another double colorless into play. Drop down a Swirlix, and we can put a Muscle Band down, but I don't really... it could get End away, I suppose, so I'll just put it in the active. And Quaking Punch for 50 damage. No prize. Pretty annoying, but oh well. Howlucha is something that could be pretty good against Seismitoad sometimes. You know, with a strong energy, it's hitting for 80. With a Fighting Stadium, it's hitting for 20 more. So Howlucha can be big, especially if you don't knock it out in one hit. That's when Howlucha is really good. If it survives a turn and gets to use Flying Press twice, that's when it really hurts Seismitoad a lot. So trying to avoid that kind of a situation. It looks like my opponent is favoring the Donphan option with Spinning Turn, which is perfectly fine. All right, so here we're going to go with some Tasting and some more Tasting. Slurpuff just loves tasting those new cards, and we'll drop a Water Energy onto the bench. Seismitoad, I'd like to Juniper there, but I feel like my Stadiums are going to be really important, so I don't want to Juniper one of those away. I know I can trump card them back, but I feel like having one more in the deck is a good idea, and we're going to Quaking Punch again, knocking out the Robo Substitute for no prize, which again is annoying, but again, I'm playing probably a more annoying deck, so I can't really complain. So here we see a Karina. It's going to grab another Donphan, I believe. And it looks like a Floatstone, which my opponent can't play. We shut off half of Karina, which is pretty nice. But my opponent still gets to search for a Pokemon. So, not as nice as it could be. My opponent's going to switch into the Howlucha here. And, going to go with some Tasting. So let's see. Do we have a Lysander in the discard? We do. All right. So I could VS Seeker for Lysander and then Laser the Donphan and knock it out. It's pretty good. Or I could actually Zero Sick and discard the Strong Energy. That might actually be a decent option as well. But you know what? I'm going to take the opportunity to Ultra Ball for another Slurpuff. Seems like long term this is just going to be the better move. Get more Tasting, get more cards. We do get a Juniper off of that Tasting. And yeah, here I'm just going to go for the big VS Seeker for Lysander and then Laser for the knockout. Maybe using the 0-6 would be better, since Hawlucha honestly might be a bigger threat than Donphan. But, we'll just take him out. Why not? Quaking Punch for 100, and then the 30 from the Poison. Getting rid of the big, bad Donphan. Seems good, I suppose. But again, maybe going after Hawlucha would have been better when I could just discard the strong energy off of Donphan with the 0-6. But we do see a Fighting Stadium and a strong energy from my opponent. That's going to be annoying. It's going to be a spinning turn knockout. 40, 60, 80 with the damage modifiers. Going to be a perfect knockout on my Seismitoad EX. So this game is still going to be very close. Going to come down to probably if I can get one-hit knockouts. To be perfectly honest, let's go for a tasting. We got a great hand here. Got a computer search, a Skyla, a laser. Tasting. We just drew 4 extra cards right here. And this should allow us to get another knockout. Oh, how crazy is that? I can computer search. You know, I have that same situation again where I could just discard the special energy off Donphan and knock out the Hawlucha, and that would probably be good enough, I think. But for some reason, I feel like going after Donphan is a good idea. So let's computer search, discard Juniper and Muscle Band, I suppose. Keep in mind this can all get shuffled in later with trump cards, so the discards aren't entirely important. And you know, I do like taking the Verbank. I'm going to need a Verbank laser no matter which route I take. Man, I don't know. That is a very close call, going after Donphan or going after Hawlucha. I kind of like taking out the Donphans because eventually, you know, my opponent's field might just be a lot of stuff I can easily knock out. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this is wrong. But enough dwelling on this. What this does do is keep my enhanced hammers and stuff for later if I need them. So we are going to do the Lysander Laser Quaking Punch knockout again. Pretty big play there. And it looks like another strong energy going to come down onto a Phanpy. And then Donphan is going to come out. So this is certainly not a one game by any means. Like I am not in a position where I have easily won the game. I don't think so at all. All right, and here I did draw a trump card. So that's a pretty big deal. I am going to try to draw an enhanced hammer before I play the trump card, though. I do have a switch. I can go ahead and do that. And then switch tasting for 2 cards here. And no, didn't draw the enhanced hammer. That's kind of annoying. So now I have to decide, do I want a trump card or Skyla for enhanced hammer? I'm just going to go for the enhanced hammer. Slow my opponent down a little bit more. Take away any big plays, you know, any ways to do big damage. Seems like a decent idea. Then we can just trump card next turn. I guess maybe the trump card would have been better here. Get some lasers back. I don't know. But Quaking Punch for 50. Going to shut off the items. Going to discard another energy. My opponent has gone through a ton of energy at this point. Another fighting energy does come down, so my opponent did have another one. But it's going to be a fighting, not a strong. So it's only doing 40 instead of 60. That's going to make it a much more difficult knockout. So we see a Karina for an enhanced hammer, and there are no fighting Pokemon left. But it's still going to be a little difficult to close out the game. I think I'll be able to do it. Geesh, all 4 strong energy are gone at this point. So my opponent's damage is definitely limited. And I did draw a Lysander right here. But I think this is the turn where we need to play the trump card and shuffle in all of our stuff. My opponent gets all his stuff back. But I think my stuff is kind of more important at this point. If I can get the hammers, the lasers back, I think there's no way my opponent can stop me from taking all of my prizes in the next few turns before they take theirs. So there we go. Trump card going to shuffle in a lot of stuff. Keep in mind, even though my opponent gets a lot of good cards back, they also get a lot of useless cards back. So there's always the the two sides to the trump card, right? They get all their stuff back, but a lot of it was like item cards and stuff they don't want to draw, like a Reshiram or another Fanpea, or I don't know, item cards. There's a lot of item cards. And even a Fighting Energy isn't the greatest card to draw right now. A Strong Energy would be really good. But yeah, stuff like N isn't even that great, only getting 4 cards. So it fills their deck all the way up, and it's good and bad. For me, though, it's pretty much all good. There's so many cards that I can use out of there. Crushing Hammer, Hypnotoxic Laser, just tons and tons of stuff. My opponent is actually going to Lysander out Slurpuff here. I'm not sure what the reasoning is for that, since it's just a 1 energy to retreat. So that was kind of peculiar. I'm going to discard N and Team Flare Grunt with this Ultra Ball here. Grab another Seismitoad just to thin out the deck a little bit. And then we can Tasting for 2 cards. I can Tasting for another card and Tasting for a 4th card. And you can see just how ridiculous drawing 4 extra cards can be for this kind of a deck. Gonna go with the Crushing Hammer and Heads, and there you go. You can see getting my cards back, it's pretty good. And at this point, I guess I can bench another Seismitoad EX. Can drop a Water Energy on, and then switch into the Seismitoad that has no damage on it whatsoever. And I have so many things left in my deck. I have a bunch of Lysander. I have all 4 lasers. I have Verbank back. More Crushing Hammers. And we've just kind of grinded down my opponent, where he's just run out of almost everything. Well, he hasn't run out of everything, but he just... We kind of cleared his board. He doesn't have any energy. And he doesn't get item cards. Meanwhile, I've built up a Seismitoad with the ability to use Grenade Hammer. I've regained all of my devastating cards like Hammer, Laser, Lysander. And there we go. My opponent just says GG, recognizes that it is just over at this point. Probably no way to win. Probably doesn't have a very good hand either. And Seismitoad Slurpuff goes through 3 straight opponents and manages to win a tournament, winning with nothing but Quaking Punch, which should just tell you how silly Seismitoad EX is when you just use Quaking Punch and item cards, and that's all you need to win. So there we go, victory. You can see all the spoils. We get some packs. We get that trophy, and you can see the tournament bracket there as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something about this Seismitoad Slurpuff deck that's been kind of under the radar, doing well at City Championships. But yeah, again, hope you enjoyed. I will certainly have some more videos for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.